I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
You know, there are more women in college than men. And it just goes to reason that there are more Black women in college than Black men. In fact, Black women are the demographic that is most educated with the most degrees and most professional kind of aspirations. And so today we want to talk a little bit about that because does that mean that it makes it harder for us to find a partner, a life partner, if we are looking for a man? Because for some men, it's really hard to square being with a woman who is professional, who is successful, or who just makes more money, even if he makes a good salary as something else. And I I'm one of the three of us, I'm the only one who's been married before. And in my first relationship, I found that my getting a good job at a newspaper was problematic for my spouse at the time. And something very strange happens sometimes when men are seeing or dating or marrying someone who has that upward trajectory of being a money maker or the main breadwinner. And I don't like that term breadwinner because if we're working, we're all making the bread. But he wanted to more control me. He wanted to control where the money was being spent and how, even though he was not good with money, he had gone bankrupt a couple of times already. And I have since decided, and this sounds like a snobbery, but after that relationship ended, I decided I would not date anyone who did not make as much money as me. And it wasn't because I was a snob, even though that sounds snobbish. It was because men tended to have a problem with it. Sisters, I don't know what you think about this, but I in this era now of male fragility, I'm finding that there is a lot more men who seem to be really misogynistic and wanting to humble us if we look like we are getting a little big for our britches. I don't know. What have been some of your experiences?
I have to say that I immediately thought of that scene in the movie Why Did I Get Married? When the professor was breaking up with her husband, and at first the divorce seemed to be going well until the husband wanted equal share of the woman's money that she brought in from her professional life, her books and her other things that were related to her psychology and all that stuff. And it turned into a thing because she said, this was my money. You didn't have any part in it. And that turned into the ugliest divorce, with everyone losing their minds, getting violent. I mean, it was a great show, but the part that seemed to have started it was that there was not an equal look at the money that they both brought in. To me, money is a partnership, and it shouldn't be your money, my money. It should be our money. Ultimately, it's God's money. But when you are working together as a couple, there should not be one person intimidated by the other person making more money. There's something not quite right and settled in that relationship if you are judging the other person based on them making more money than you, or you're making more money than them, and now you have this jealousy, and now you have this interaction between each other, that it's not right. I feel that when people are having those kind of problems, because most families or most couples, their biggest problems that they have is always rooted in the financial base. And I would suggest people that are stumbling in that area, they might want to talk to a financial counselor. A lot of my friends who have been married for many years, sometimes the wife handles the money because she's better with it, and sometimes the husband handles the money because he's better with it. But between the both of them, if there is this struggle between equality over your finances, something else is probably at the root of that, and it's coming out in your fight over the money.
I saw this article. I'm subscription to Quora, the little discussion group thing online, and I saw this question asked: as a man, can you marry a woman who earns more than you? And of course, there were some interesting responses. I think that the idea of a man supposedly being the one that earns the most money comes from old traditions and cultural values, that the man is the one that works outside the home and the woman is the one that maintains the household and therefore doesn't have a job, so tends to not have her own income. Well, we did some research on this in our book, Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. And in fact, I'll be talking about that at an upcoming event, about the whole dynamics of our marriages and what tends to make them fall apart. And you're right, money does tend to be a stumbling block, especially because it is rooted in the idea of power. The one who has the most money is the one who has the most power. And as long as people are carrying that attitude into a marriage, there's going to be a source of conflict. A lot of the balance of power changed after World War II, when women were sent out in the workplace while the men were at war, and they were in the factories and everything else. Well, when the men came back, the women still were out working because they liked having their own money. And so the dynamics of our relationships changed. And as a result, men have often not been able to adjust to the ideas of women being independent. And sometimes women have had the attitude that a man who makes less than me is less than a man. So now there was a few responses to that. One of the guys said, nothing to do with money. As long as she treats me with respect and loves me for who I am, there will be no need to be concerned about that. If my home is happy, then I shall be happy. If not, I will leave. What good is money when the marriage lacks love? So I thought that was a good response. And another person said, well, absolutely. I have a couple of my friends in my circle who fits these dynamics to the T. The wife earns more. They have a stable job, better pension. How are they as a couple? They're completely devoted to each other, supportive and involved. She cannot stop talking about him whenever possible. He's always there to support her. The best part is the complete normalcy in their relationship. So I think it really has to do with the attitudes of people about money.
Yes.
What I did, of course, I looked at marriage as a partnership. And I kind of, after several different experiences with people, the man I finally married was also my business partner. And so I think my whole idea is that if we don't think of it in terms of hours, we're going to have a problem. Because I might have skills that makes me earn more. If we're earning separate, he might have different skills. And I've got friends that, okay, she's maybe working the medical field as a doctor. he's driving a truck. You know, they had to decide to ignore social ideas that she's of a higher class than him, because all of that's stupid. None of it has any merit other than what's in your own mind. If you come together as a couple, you got to have yours, mine, ours kind of mentality, and you can't have the influence of the society saying that you're not good enough for her, she earns more money, or he's not good enough for you, he doesn't earn enough money. If you fall into that, then you're going to have conflict. But it really just depends on the attitude of the people involved.
I think even before you get to the point of having a conflict about who's earning more and who's earning less, there is something deeper that may be going on in the relationship. Take this rumor or this story or this fact that comes out with Hollywood couples. It's like they call it the Oscar curse. Soon as the woman wins an Oscar, her relationship with her husband, boyfriend, partner falls apart. It was evident after you saw, like, for instance, one of my favorite actresses, Sandra Bullock, who had gone on and on about how wonderful her husband was. And it was like this whole big, some kind of article where she was sharing in this interview how supportive he was, how loving he was, how he was always by her side, had her back. And when she got that Oscar for Best Actress, it all fell apart, just like other actresses. So they've like termed it the Oscar curse.
Well, you notice it doesn't happen with the men when they win. So that does say something.
Exactly. And this is the thing, is that what I said at the beginning is it is about the male fragility, because men have been socialized to believe, not only have they socialized to believe that they should have the more money and thus more power. There were laws for many years that made that possible. Women didn't have the right to buy houses or even get their own credit card.
Right. They had to have a co-signer of the man.
Which is the year I graduated high school. They couldn't buy a house on their own. They couldn't get their own credit. You know, a lot of them, they had, if they were working, they got paid less for the same job. Or
that's still true today in a lot of industries.
Yeah, we still make like 69 cents or something, you know, or less, you know, as Black women. But also, if they got pregnant, they were forced to quit. So the idea, and that also trapped women in bad marriages. You have somebody who's beating your butt every other day, and he's the one who provides the purse strings. You're not going anywhere. And then,
you just learn to take a beating.
You have to take that beating because you can't afford to go anywhere. Now women can afford to go somewhere. They can afford to get their own house. They can get their own apartment. They can, they can get their own bank account, which we couldn't get. And now it's like, I am with you because I want to be with you, not because I have to be with you. And that scares a lot of men because they've been socialized. And now there's this whole thing about male loneliness epidemic. Well, you know what? You're lonely because nobody needs your BS. Nobody's going to put up with it if they can find peace either with a better partner than you or on their own. And a lot of women are finding their peace on their own, and they come with, like Intozaki Shange, she comes with her own things, and that is what it is. They can come and they can do these things, and they can be more educated, and they can chase their dream and chase their aspirations without asking permission.
And I think you're right when it comes to the history of how things were forced upon women. Yes. The whole subservient, substandard treatment. It's a cultural thing that we have allowed as women for centuries. The thing about it,
allowed is tough because when you have laws, that's not you allowing it. You have to change the laws. I mean,
but that's the whole thing. It's
and
just like
Yeah,
Yeah.
but once we have changed those laws, people aren't going to turn around and say, "I'm sorry, I can't sell this house to you because you're just a single woman," or a car. Come back with your husband. I mean, when I bought my car, there was no issue. There was no
Mhm.
issue. I walked in. My husband didn't feel like going car shopping that day. I needed a car. I says, "Okay, see you later." Went to the place, got the car that I wanted. The guy checked my credit score. It was great. I came back and I said, I bought a car today. He says, no, you didn't, because he wasn't feeling it, and I wanted to go, and I'm glad I
Mhm.
was on my own, because that way they weren't talking to him when I said
Yes.
I wanted to buy a car.
Right.
I want to buy the car. Don't tell me, okay, little lady, just pick out the color you want. No, I'm going to be paying for it. You're going to treat me that way, and that's what a little bit of independence buys you, is respect.
Well, that's
And
the thing. That's the thing, is that in order for things to change, you first have to change what's inside yourself. You first have to change your own respect, because we went through what we went through because we did in fact agree to the collective consciousness that women should take a back seat to men. We believed it. That's why we supported it. And that's why we taught our sons that same attitude. So that had to change in us first. And then we had to go through the resistance of the those in control who didn't want to change the culture, and it was uncomfortable. All the women's suffrage movements, the struggles, all of those things. The first one to set up out and do something that got attacked, that forerunner. It was a process of changing, and you have to change the hearts and minds of people before there's a collective change in the culture. But then in addition to that, once there's the change, then we also have to realize when we sometimes might have some old attitudes, and that's where that thought of, well, if he doesn't make as much money as me, is he really as much of a man? Because there a lot of things came out in this article, in the discussion, things like, how you feel about if you go on a date, who should pay, or should you go Dutch, and all those kind of things.
who
So
asked?
even the rule, whoever asked, that's who should pay.
Who invited whom?
Yeah, I
And
can't. Yeah.
I see a lot of these things on Instagram where, guys will, and women will take advantage or try to. Guys will ask them out, and she'll show up with her kids and expect, no, I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. I'm that kind of
You taking us to dinner? Wait a minute. Are you
no,
talking
no,
about
if I invite all y'all, I'm not taking all y'all. Or with her friends. Worse, when she shows up with her friends, and those kind of things. So some women, they have been taught that it also to manipulate, and it is okay to
Mhm.
take advantage. But for the most part, like I said, I find that men become more, and I'm not saying all men, but a lot of men feel that kind of way, and they want to, instead of saying, you know what, this is making me uncomfortable, because they still need counseling, a lot of them do, uh
Mhm.
they will just go out of their way to make her feel bad, to diminish her her sense of self, so that they can feel better. And you know what, when you see that, it's time to walk away, because, and that's why I said, I don't want to deal with your problems. I don't want to deal with your insecurities. If you feel like me being, a professional writer, reporter, editor, whatever I was at the time, is intimidating to you, uh and so you're going to constantly try to demean me, why do I need that? Why do I have to like make myself small in order to make you bigger?
And that's
And
one of the things that women should look at when they're considering somebody. How confident are you in who you are? How confident are you enough to allow me to expand and be all that I can be without
yes,
you being intimidated? So I think people show signs of insecurity even in the dating process. You got to be paying attention, and even little things that come up, like who pays for the meal, or and men talk about, is she a gold digger? What was that, Kanye West or somebody wrote a song
oh
about
yeah,
gold digger?
yeah, she's a gold digger.
Uh,
And the thing is that you know what? If you're calling somebody a gold digger and you ain't hardly got two, coins
You ain't got gold.
you ain't got no gold. She's not a gold digger because she's with you. If she was a gold digger, she'd be with someone who wouldn't be worried about her being a gold digger. She would have
I don't know. I
she
think anytime.
sugar daddy thing, and if that's all she wanted, but she's not with somebody, and you got a couple of coins, and yet you suddenly think because she ordered something other than a side salad, that, oh, she's a gold digger because you got a full meal but she's supposed to eat just a salad. A lot of we got to stop thinking so much about dating even as anything other than you getting to know each other. Go for coffee, go for a walk, and some people don't like that. They say, okay, you got to spend money. You don't
Well,
have
I
to.
think that tells a person's values. Because I've been a lot of situations where all we did is walk in the park or something like that. Because if you're looking for a woman who is going to value you for who you are, then you look at how she responds to a date where maybe you just go get some ice cream or something like that. I think that was Barack and Michelle Obama's first date at the ice cream place. So if somebody gotta try to impress you with how much money they spend on you, sometimes that's a red flag. Because I just met you, and what are you expecting for this money you spent?
Exactly.
Whatever you expect, you ain't gonna get it. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of things that money can symbolize. I don't know, Barbara. Have you ever been in a situation where you expected somebody to pay more than they did, or they paid more than you thought they should have, and you thought, well, what are you trying to buy? I mean, what do you think about
I
that?
actually have never been in that kind of situation. I hate to keep bringing up these crazy movies that the chick
They're
the
just
chick flick
movies.
movie, but there was definitely one called uh something different. No, something new.
Something new. I
And
love that
and
movie.
the woman, she was a professional. She had met this other handsome professional black man who fit all of the things on her list of the perfect black husband to be. Blair Underwood, who is a fox even today, but he had all the right stuff, but as a person, he really was not a kind person underneath. She kind of picked that up a little bit when he made some comment about her hair.
Yeah,
And
he liked the weave. She,
yeah,
the other guy that she was dating liked her. When he found she was wearing, he says, "But that's not really your hair," and
yeah,
he liked her natural hair.
he
So
did.
he
And
also
he was a landscaper. Now,
was a
I don't
man,
know. I know landscapers make a lot of money, but obviously he did not make as much as she did in her profession.
but she was a
But he was the man for her. And her friend had set her up with him, knowing that this is the perfect match for you. But
yes.
she kept saying no, but she was going, and then she realized really she liked him. He was a good match.
That
What
he
Blair Underwood in one of the Medea movies where he was a white dude?
Yeah, that one he
He
was
was
an
rich,
abusive
but he
fine looking man, but he was
poor
mean.
Blair.
and the mother kept trying to make her marry him because he had money, but
Yeah.
he was beating her tail, So
Yeah. So
Then she threw those grits on him. That was hot grit.
yeah,
movie reviews.
yeah, the Medea suggestion, yeah, that was. But that is another thing, though. Sometimes people they'll tolerate bad treatment, some money on them. So what does that say about your self-esteem when you allow that just because someone spends money? So, we had to always look at our values. You attract what you are on the inside. And if you attract somebody that treats you badly, how long does it take you to realize that they're treating you badly? And does it take you longer if they're spending money? So,
And conversely, if they're treating you badly because you're the one who's spending money. I've also had the ones who you don't mind because, some of us really aren't. So we're not into counting pennies all the time. We're not, oh,
yeah.
okay, you spent that on me, I spent that on you. We don't have to go back and forth. It's like, oh, okay, let's go here, let's go to dinner. But if somebody's always constantly forgetting his wallet or whatever, you got to start thinking, okay,
Oh, I
what's
forgot my
going on
wallet.
here?
Or you drove there without your license.
Yeah, yeah, because sometimes people will use that your success and they will hype you up, but they are still looking for how they can benefit from you. I mean, it's a really tricky thing for women. It's really tricky because you don't want to be that type of person who only judges people. But the thing is that sometimes they're judging you, and sometimes they're deciding, oh, you're so arrogant, or you could help me out, but you don't help me out. And you have to say, wait a minute, we're supposed to be equal partners in this relationship. Yeah, how are you helping? How are we're supposed to take care of each other. It's not like I'm supposed to take care of you because I have a little bit more. I don't mind taking care of you if I have a little bit more and you're struggling for a while, but that should not be my default. And that shouldn't be your default. And I just think for men who have problems with insecurity and they're insecure about women, they will try to take control in other ways. They can be verbally abusive, they can be manipulative, and let's be fair, women can be the same way, but money should not be the way we judge each other, and yet it is.
Absolutely. And everybody loves Denzel Washington, but there was a time he was the struggling actor and his wife was the one who was stronger financially.
Yes.
And she hung in there with him, and now he's who he is. And ain't none of y'all gonna get him because you wasn't there when he wasn't Denzel. But that's a judgment call that everybody's got to make, and that's why you got to build a relationship based on some deeper principles. You have to evaluate the person, who they are, how are they treating you. And yes, you might be supportive of somebody in the dream they have or vision that they have, and you might be the one who is willing to finance them going to school because they're going to become a doctor. But remember, I think it was All in the Family. Gloria worked while Mike was going to school, and then they end up getting divorced, once he got his education.
Oh,
And
really?
down on her. Yeah, later on they end up
I
getting
must
divorced.
not have watched it then to that episode. I didn't know
Yeah,
that happened.
yeah,
That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. So that's what happened in the later years, and they didn't want to tell Archie and Edith that they were divorcing, but all they knew,
Wow.
she
And I'm
was
just finding this out.
Yeah,
doesn't
you
that
were
make
8
sense?
years old finding this out.
So sometimes that happens. You stand by somebody and you
Or
kind of
they trade you in for a better for a younger model.
that happens too. So it's all about trust. What are your real values? And you got to spend enough time with a person and go through enough things in the dating process before you marry so that you will know whether or not you have a relationship built on some solid spiritual principles. I'm with this person because of their values, of who they are, our mutual respect. We truly have a bond, a partnership, and it's not about what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours, and I got more than you, so therefore I'm better than you, or you're gonna control me with all you got and I don't have enough. It's none of that. You got to have a relationship where you have built trust and mutual respect. And if you don't have that, the money isn't going to keep you together.
And it's perfectly fine if you are uncomfortable with someone, whether you're a man or woman who makes such a different uh amount
Salary.
of money. If they make a lot less or a lot more, and if you're uncomfortable with it, especially for men, if you're really uncomfortable with the woman, having a little bit more, maybe she's got a nicer car or whatever, you know, just walk away. Go and get that, spend that little money you have on counseling so you can get rid of these misogynistic ideas left over from the white male patriarchy that is hurting all of our our uh, our communities, because you're thinking, we're going on this model that somebody else has made for us, because in other communities and in other societies, people work together hand in hand, and nobody's, counting pennies or keeping score. But if you feel like you have to keep score because she's, oh, she's doing this, and oh, you think you're so all that, you know what? Maybe you should be the one to walk away, because you're not help. If you can't help, don't hurt.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe you're not ready for marriage.
Or that relationship. Maybe it's not even marriage that you want. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just that relationship you don't want.
And things do change over time. You never know who's going to end up being the one supporting who, because as we age, the dynamics in our relationships can change overnight. And suddenly the great breadwinner is the one that's bedridden and has to be taken care of by that
Or
other
just
person.
laid off. Or just
Or
laid off.
laid off, uh, fired, all kinds of things. And the money dynamics change. That's why if you don't have a partnership where you're working together, it's not going to last. Well,
So
anyway,
true.
we've got to go. Tell us what you think. Leave your comments on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, Three Black Moms. If you're a man, could you marry a woman who made substantially more than you? If you're a woman, would you marry a man who made substantially less than you? How do we change the dynamics around money in our
We
marriages?
change the sexist attitudes.
There you go. Well, join us next week. We're here every Sunday, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. And until that time, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara. We are three Black moms. Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.